Producciones Vrinda presenta ofrendas en glorificación a Chila Sridhar Maharaj.
I offer my respects unto His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti-Rakha Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, whose countenance is especially beautiful and kind, and who is able to present the highest ontological truth in the most pleasing poetic style. His transcendental figure is decorated with fine garment, radiant like the morning sun. He is a spiritual storehouse of concentrated ecstasy, a true saint chosen by the honest devotees. His renunciation and knowledge are comparable to a vast ocean. He is a fathomless reservoir and protector of all the illustrious conclusions of pure devotion. Resplendent in pastimes of loving dedication and a fountain of the intense mellows of conjugal love, he is clearly distinguished amongst those endowed with divine intelligence. Freely granting our true fulfillment of life, he is my only shelter and the greatest general leading the renounced order of life. So, excuse me for taking the word now. Actually, after hearing about Manala Maharaj and Shunda Prabhu, I actually felt the urge to say something, so I apologize. Actually, my honorable guest should be talking first, but there were some things which just came up within me. First of all, we are honoring here a spiritual master which by Diksha, I think only 3 people are in the room connected. Then by Shiksha, all of us, by admiration, so many others of us. So, but still, the 100th birthday of Srila Sridhar Maharaj is so important for us and for devotees all around the world, even within Vrindavan. Simultaneously there's a Vyasa Puja celebrated, to my knowledge, in 2 places, in addition to this. So, actually, why is Srila Sridhar Maharaj so extraordinary? Well, let me start with Srila Prabhupada, because why is Srila Prabhupada so extraordinary? Well, he lived with Srila Sridhar Maharaj and he went to the West and he started his preaching. And what was this extraordinary thing? I mean, everybody, all his other godbrothers were also preaching. They also, many of them were much senior to him. They were giving classes for a long time. But there was one peculiarity of Srila Prabhupada's preaching, which definitely, where he got it from Lord Nityananda, or whoever we want to give the credit here, he himself gave the credit to Sridhar Maharaj in certain instances. But what was his particularity? It was that he kind of accepted everybody. He wasn't like so picky, you know? He wasn't like looking, oh, does this guy have good behavior or not? Where does he come from? No, he was just saying, come on, chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam. The rest we'll see. Maybe something good come from it, you know? Give him the chance, no? And well, quite a few of us had a good use of that chance. So that's why we're here, I guess. So of course, I don't have to talk more about Srila Prabhupada. We all have heard it, seen it, or experienced it. But after Prabhupada left, well, we also know that story. Then there was a kind of a reluctance into confidence. Amongst ourselves, the God brothers, we don't really know who to trust and who not to trust. Amazingly, when Prabhupada trusted all of us, no? I mean, he trusted people so much, he would give sannyas to a person sometimes after a year or a year and a half in the movement. We just send him out, come on, you go out and preach there, you know. One instance I'll never forget, you know. One sannyasi, they had actually a physical fight with another senior sannyasi, and no, he wasn't a sannyasi then, he was just a brahmachari. So Prabhupada came a short time later and asked him, the brahmachari sneaked into Prabhupada's room and practically said, Prabhupada, I want you to give me sannyas. Prabhupada said, why? You're just a young boy. He said, I just can't work with any of these guys. Oh, said Prabhupada, very good reason. A few days later he gave him sannyas and sent him to Hong Kong to open a temple. So, I mean, that was Prabhupada, you know. He was so unique, he was so open, so trusting. Why he trusted everybody? Because he knew that Krishna's in control. Prabhupada wasn't in control. He wasn't in control. First, when I managed the BBT in Scandinavia, We actually had $500,000. It was the first time a BBT in Europe was getting financially strong. No? And $500,000 there, collected by the devotees. And I sent a few new printed books to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada told me, oh, very nice. I'm very happy you're printing these books. He wouldn't ask how you're going to control it, how make sure nothing is stolen. He was just believing that we were seriously trying to do what he was given to us. Do everything for Krishna. Don't get entangled, you're going to fall down. Not a farthing should be misspent. So he trusted us. He didn't make any, oh, there's money, we have to make mechanical arrangements and so, no. Anyhow, I'm getting sidetracked here. So the point was he trusted us, and after he left, this trust kind of disappeared. You didn't know who trusts who. And some people thought, is this a group? Is this a clique? Is there some certain interest you have to get? And nobody could really figure it out. And that went on for quite a while. Until, despite all criticism, from all sides, despite of criticism from the Western devotee society, from the Indian Eastern Devotee Society, Sridhar Maharaj stood up just as he was a bold preacher throughout his life. Some people call him back-pushing. I don't know, how can you call somebody back-pushing who opened like 4 temples in his life and was a leading preacher in the Gaudiya Math throughout his life, finally being picked to be the personal secretary to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I mean, he himself called himself back-pushing, but that's just like a devotee says, well, I'm useless, you know. I mean, I can see it, you know, open personally constructed temple. It's not really what we consider a Babaji, you know, or something like that. It's all the life going for it, more service and more service and more service. Anyhow, so Sridhar Maharaj, he stood up and he said, you boys, if you can't go on your spiritual life because you are not recognized and you feel the urge, like Shamashoda was saying, you feel the urge to go on and do something in this life, then don't worry about it. I'll back you up. Now you go out and do what you feel is necessary to be done. And an outrage came. What? How does he dare to? Who he thinks he is? Who is his GBC? Even was asked, you know. So it's amazing. And Srila Maharaj, he did not give up the love, even for those. He kind of, no, not criticized. He just, what's the word for it? You know, he pointed out some defects in their attitudes, so to speak. Nevertheless, he embraced them. And I haven't heard a person in the Gaudiya Math speaking as highly of the GBC and ISKCON and Prabhupada as Sridhar Maharaj, which doesn't mean the others don't speak highly of it, but it just means that he outdid it, you know. He said, brought by Mahaprabhu, conceived by Bhaktivinoda, started by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and finally spread to every nook and corner of the universe by Bhaktivedanta Swami. We are astonished. We are sitting here and astonished. Who else has spoken like this? Anyhow, the point was, he was ready for the truth to go against every other misconception, whether appreciated or not, that he didn't care. So, what did he do? He gave sannyas to so many people and he told them, go out and preach. That was his attitude even from the very beginning, because as a humble Vaishnava he felt himself unqualified, which later was corrected by Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu actually chastised him, said you want to get more mercy but you're not giving it out. He had previously given sannyas to other of his godbrothers and sent them out to initiate and preach. And he had done that. And he kept that attitude till the very last moment in his life. He did that. He gave sannyas to so many people and he encouraged them to start their own missions, to go out and preach. Because he had a very great vision and he could clearly understand that the missionary concerns, missionary institutional control, that's a very limited thing in this world. To say the least, we are quite disgusted with it. And not only ourselves, the whole world is disgusted with institutions, because institutions are just complicated, have a tendency of corruption, they have a tendency of the wrong thing being called the right and the right thing being called the wrong, and then you don't know why you are there. So this is something, it's not a new story, this is just the nature of this material world. So Srila Maharaj didn't make a big point of making big institutions. He did the same thing Prabhupada did. Trust them and send them out to do Mahaprabhu's work. But now this thing goes on. Srila Maharaj left us and again despair. Naturally, every time a greater child leaves this world, there's despair. Well, there's no way to fill that. Even though there may be other pure devotees, but it is just some unique thing. And this love which comes and which goes to him, it is just it's very hard to overcome. Anyway, one thing I want to say more about that when we come to the next point. Now, today, 1995, some institution, I mean, you're going to get a bigger plate, huh? You get your train tickets free, or your plane ticket. You can have always a great amount of respect. It's a kind, and therefore it's actually very difficult to get such an institutional privilege. It is very much restricted. So then, what is the next point? The next point is that sannyas is the means of giving your whole heart to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna combined. He's the whole meaning of Vrindavan. It is all coming to us. So, therefore, this type of privilege, that is not the real meaning of sannyas. Sannyas, it is something which is our supreme goal for our life, to give up every other desire, every other entanglement, and to just serve. Now we can have the attitude of sannyas even without taking sannyas. Srila Prabhupada called some of his Grihastha disciples, he called them better than some sannyasis, no? So it is not something, I'm not talking about the ashram only, I'm talking of this attitude to give yourself to the preaching. So every time of elite, that is something which is condemned by our acharyas, and Sridhar Maharaj was one of the outstanding defenders of that. And this type of elitist thinking, that we have a special group, it has even another faction, which is much worse even. And what is that? I call it rasic blackmailing. It is where some missions claim, or some people, let's say some people, that you can get something very high in the rasa realm only through the connection of this person or that person. And if you don't surrender here, you'll miss out on it. You'll be out. You're not going to get it. Now, whoever is doing that, that is his own responsibility. It is his own mistake. But I've seen it happening even surrounding Srila Maharaj, who is himself that person who is just simply given. Pretty much is giving, Srila Maharaj giving, Prabhupada was just giving. That is so outstanding in them. And so whatever is this eternal relationship we may have with Krishna, and which will be revealed to us by the divine grace, like Srila Puri Maharaj always says, he says, first deserve and then desire. That's an old famous statement. Whatever is that will come down to you when you're at the point. But if you, before you're at this point, you're using that for recruiting techniques, by putting people in mental prisons, in fear, is scared, you have to stick to this group, you cannot even talk to this other Vaishnava group because you may lose your rasa, or anything like that, you know? And this is such a nonsense. It is not what we have been given. And unfortunately, this is something which, like Padmanabha Maharaj was pointing in a more indirect way, I'm more blunt about it here, he's saying that is what people do to cover up their hidden motives. Not because they have something superior to give to Sridhar Maharaj, Puri Maharaj, or to Prabhupada. And if they have anything superior to give, I want to leave this body on this spot here in Vrindavan. I want to get out of this place. Because I've seen that loving devotees have come to this world to give love, openness, freedom and trust, and they have taken us all into their family. And whoever wants to divide that family for their selfish interests, yes, it is a family which is unity in diversity. Tripurari Maharaj, Nrsimha Maharaj, they have different styles. Huh? I have a different style. Sridhar Maharaj Prabhu has a different style. That's naturally. Even Puri Maharaj and Sridhar Maharaj are so different. But they're also unique. And all this uniqueness and this differentiation is required. There's nothing wrong about it. It would be boring if everybody would be just a photocopy of each other. Huh? Huh? So Krishna loves variety, and here we have it. So why? But as soon as we take from that to start saying, hey, my guru is the real one. You, I don't know. No? Sorry for you. Huh? Then what is this? Then we don't understand the very principle of guru worship, which is the worship of the Shamasti Guru. This is the Guru principle. And that Guru principle is what really makes the Guru individually holy. If there is no Guru principle to be worshipped, then you can throw the whole Guru issue in the Yamuna. And we forget about it right here. Huh? But since we are worshipping the Guru of our heart who has saved us, so we better also worship the Guru principle, and that means be ready to give respect to everybody through whom the light of bhakti is coming somehow or other to some other person. So, practically speaking, we even have heard things which are so crazy, you know. Like one person told a friend of mine, if you're lucky, you can take reinitiation in a caste Goswami group. No? Others say, if you really want to get the nectar, you can take it from a Radhakunda Babaji. Another person goes and says, no, you have to come to our group, because only by this parent, that person, it's just the old same scam. It is the scam to simply, I don't know what, because we haven't come to this line for that, no? For scamming, supposedly. No? So, if we came here to get the absolute truth, we have to also attack that anartha. And the Bhakta Visamrita Sindhu carefully delineates what are all those difficulties we have to fight. And yes, even myself, I have not expected so many difficulties to arise. I thought you just accept the spiritual message, chant Hare Krishna, everything will be okay. And I guess it's true, because we're still chanting. Hopefully it'll be okay finally, you know. Let's keep chanting. But surprisingly, how many rotten things are there within us, the human brain. I'm not accepting myself from it. Please don't misunderstand me. But it is just... And if I'm here sitting and glorifying Srila Sridhar Maharaj today, then I simply feel because that is what he wanted us to understand. Come to the world of divine love. That is Radha Krishna, that is Vrindavan. And the only thing which will keep us from reaching there is if we somehow or other forget that we are dependent of the mercy of Sri Guru, Gauranga, and all the Vaishnavas. So I request now Vajrayana Maharaj to say some words after Sripad Turiya Maharaj.
Krishna, Param Praki. So, it is indeed extraordinary, as Sripad Paramahansa Maharaj has pointed out, that on this occasion, many persons, not only those gathered here, but as well, today in Kunja is a festival celebrating the appearance of the obstruction of the Swami Maharaj. Festival will be an occasion to be observed, and I'd like to submit that it is not merely on account of it being the centennial of Sridhar Maharaj's appearance, or the 100th appearance. In fact, probably many persons involved in glorifying His divine grace in this day and are unaware of the fact that this is the 100th year that we have since He has appeared in the world. So what is extraordinary, as Paramahansa Maharaj has mentioned, is that in all of this glorification of Sridhar Maharaj, at least immediately here in Rajamandal, very few people are actually, who are involved in this, are disciples of Sridhar Maharaj. Here we have two fully initiated disciples of Sridhar Maharaj. Sripad Paramahansa Maharaj, of course, received sannyas from Sridhar Maharaj. And likewise, in other places, that here in Braj, where this celebration is going on, very few people are actually disciples. Now that's a little deceptive to saying we're actually disciples, because Sridhar Maharaj once in a very beautiful way cleared the air in this regard and asked the question, which is the most important guru? Because they have Diksha Guru, there's Harinam Guru, there's Mantra Diksha Guru, there's Sannyas Guru, Shiksha Guru, Shastra Guru, Partner Pradasha Guru. So many types of Guru are there. So he's asked which is the most important Guru. And he immediately brought it to the spiritual platform, as was characteristic of him, by saying, the one who helps you the most. So this broke down all the formalities and rules and regulations, and brought to the forefront the reality of spiritual life, that it is an affair of love, it is an affair of the heart. This is our Gaudiya Vaishnava conception. Consciousness, existence, I should say, there may be without consciousness. But consciousness there cannot be without existence. Similarly, consciousness and existence there may be without joy. But if there is to be joy, there must be consciousness, there must be Gaudiya Vaishnava conception of Godhead is that of joy. The world maker, from the point of view of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, is not an architect, not a scientist, but a poet, or a musician. Krishna is the original flute player. They are all different compositions of Lord Sri Krishna. But only when we connect ourselves with Him consciously, through devotion, through love, is the beauty of our song, which is His song. We are a note of His flute. Would that be appreciated? And this being the case, I think that so many people are appreciating Sridhar Maharaj and of course the devotees like him because they make such connection with their source. And as they sing to us a very sweet song, and it's a song of the heart. This is the doctrine of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It's about love, foremost, first and foremost. The feeling is the guide. The feeling is the guide in the spiritual world. Here in the material world, things are moved by intelligence at best. This is a kind of a proceed with caution type of affair. But in the spiritual domain, then everything is moving by love, by affection, by intelligence. Intelligence, then intelligence is the function of doubt. So, moving with doubt and with trepidation is not free movement of the soul. But we must go beyond intelligence. We must come with our intelligence to doubt our intelligence. And we will reach the end of this upper rim, so to speak, of material existence, plane of intellect that enter into the spiritual domain itself. And there we find it a happy place, a place of love and charm. And this we found in Sridhar Maharaj. It was characteristic of all of his speech that, as Shamsuna has mentioned, it was very poetic. So this is the, not any kind of calculated speech, sit and write a poem to make sure everything rhymes, but the song of his heart. And his heart was completely captured by the flute. Transcendental flute player, Sri Krishna. He identified himself as a composition or a note of the song of Krishna, from which everything flows. And thus it's very charming to all of us. I remember hearing the recorded speech of Sridhar Maharaj, and not the sound itself, but the written word, the transcribed word, having been filtered through modern technology, tape recording, and then played out along with the book, Sri Guru and His Grace, which was handed to me by one of my godbrothers, who said, I heard there was something wrong with this, and I have confidence, Maharaj, in your understanding of the Siddhanta. So please read it and tell me what's wrong with it, because I couldn't find anything wrong. But a godbrother of mine, he knew there was nothing wrong with it. But he knew that I had not read it yet. So there was quite a bit of talk about there being something wrong with whatever came from Sridhar Maharaj at the time. And I was a faithful type, so I thought maybe there must be something wrong. But earlier, another godbrother the same day had asked me what was wrong. And I explained the policy at the time as well as I knew it. And I was not satisfied.